Welcome, everybody, to the Scottsdale Big Book Study, where we will study the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. Today is Saturday, the 5th of April, 2025. My name is Audrey N., and I am a recovered compulsive overeater from County Meath in Ireland, and I will be your host for today's study. We also have co-host Rachel M., Danny P., Johan, Nancy, and Sue L. will be doing our Q&A. If you have any questions during the meeting, please contact myself or any of the other co-hosts by private message in the chat function, and the chat function will be disabled until 5 minutes before the Q&A sessions. Please note that the speaker, Harlan G., will be recorded for the duration of the study. However, the question and answer sessions which follows will not be recorded. We ask if you can please make sure to keep your microphone on mute at all times during today's study, and also please turn off your video if you are exercising, eating, or if you need to step away from your screen for any reason. During the meeting, we will post the link for our 7th edition, and this money goes towards the cost of our Zoom account, the cost of uploading our recordings, and we also send contributions to the Intergroup, Arizona Serenity in the Desert, and the World Service Organization. We will also post links for previous week recordings, and they will be available by clicking on the link in the chat box. And I will now hand you over to Harlan. Thanks, Harlan.
Thank you very much, Audrey. I certainly appreciate your service today, and I appreciate everyone who does service on this meeting. And I'm just so glad to be here. I hope you are too. And whether you're listening on podcast or anything, YouTube, whatever it's on, or you're listening live right now, I hope you're having a great day as well. It is just a remarkable, remarkable chapter. We're in the chapter Two Employers. And a lot of meetings will skip this chapter. A lot of people just kind of poo-poo it, and they say, well, there's not much in, there's not much in this chapter. What I'm going to do to the best of my ability during the weeks we're in the chapter is to try to bring it to life so that it does have some meaning for you. I hope that I'll be successful in doing that today, and that God will guide me as to what to say so that it will have some meaning for you. The chapter Two Employers is the only chapter in the Big Book of AA that is not written by Bill Wilson, besides the doctor's opinion. The doctor's opinion obviously was mostly written by William D. Silkworth, the great doctor who was the medical director at the Towns Hospital in New York City during the 1920s and late 20s, 30s. He came in 1929. Late 29, and he stayed there for a while. But we're going to concentrate on three concepts as we go through this chapter. The concept of loss, the concept of denial, and the concept of ignorance. Now, why are loss, denial, and ignorance so important? Because when we can get in touch with these things, it really helps us to be better sponsors. It helps increase our awareness of the price that this disease extracts from you. And it also gives us a better understanding of how to recover and how to be, as I say, better sponsors, better sponsees. So with that in mind, let's go to page 140. And on page 140, we're going to see at the bottom of the page, your man has probably. Now, we're going to talk about some things that are sort of part of who we are as people, as addicts, as alcoholics, as compulsive overeaters. You know, when I was a little boy, I was lied to. And the lie that was told me was this: Harlan, if you lose weight, everything will be okay. And you know what I found out? If I lost weight, I weighed less and looked thinner, and that was good. But everything else in my life stayed as it was. And so what I found is that losing weight was not a cure-all for everything that my life encompassed. So let's go to page 140, and we're going to see that in action with these alcoholics. Let's take a look at page 140. Your man has probably been trying to conceal a number of scrapes, perhaps pretty messy ones. They may be disgusting. You may be at a loss to understand how such a seemingly above board chap could be so involved. But these scrapes can generally be charged, no matter how bad, to the abnormal action of alcohol on his mind. When drinking or getting over a bout of getting over a bout, an alcoholic, sometimes the model of honesty when normal, will do incredible things. Afterward, his revulsion will be terrible. Nearly always, these antics indicate nothing more than temporary conditions. One of the things that alcoholism does, and one of the things that my compulsive overeating did, was it put tremendous pressure on my money. And when my money was very, very scarce, I did very stupid things like not paying my bills, not making my car payments. My car was repossessed twice. Not buying car insurance, not paying doctors, not paying dentists, not owning up to the responsibilities of being an adult in our society. And so what happened was, these responsibilities, when shirked, when avoided, they created a lot of problems for me. Collection agencies, banks, I wrote a lot of bad checks. My eating habit, my eating habit was about $100 to $150 per day in the 1970s. That's a very expensive eating habit. And so I didn't have a great enough income to sustain that. I didn't have a good enough income to absorb those kind of bills. And so what happened was, over and over again, I got into trouble with money. I lied when the truth was better. I did stupid things like, as I say, driving without insurance, going months without making a car payment. What did I think was going to happen? One day I walked out of the house, my car was gone, they had repossessed it. So there are things that we do and we hope that will successfully get swept under the rug, but they don't. And I think God, in his infinite wisdom, makes it so that we do have to own up to these responsibilities. It is vitally important that I have to pay my bills and do the things that I can do to be an adult, be a responsible adult. Today, after many, many years of recovery, after many years of living in the world as a person who makes a living, doesn't spend that kind of money on food, my credit is in the 800 range. I can buy a car without putting down a dime. I bought this condo. I bought my house. Now, my house is not very fancy. It's very modest. It's what I can afford. But I live according to my means today. And I do not incur any kind of bills that I'm unwilling or unable to pay. I don't charge things that I don't want or don't need, rather, not that I don't want, that I don't need. And I live according to my means. And living according to my means today is one of the greatest freedoms in the world, because for me, I don't want the debt. I don't want the fear of the debt. I mean, God forbid something happens that's an emergency. Okay, I understand that. But short of an emergency, if I can't afford it, I don't buy it. When I have a bill, I pay it. It's not even April 15th yet. We're still 10 days away from that. My federal taxes are paid. My state taxes are paid. My quarterly taxes are paid. Everything gets paid on time. And I'll let you in on a secret. Paying my bills, being on time with bills, being on time for appointments, being a responsible adult is one of the greatest freedoms of my life. I was always late for everything. I always shirked my responsibilities. I never did what I was supposed to. Doing what I'm supposed to, when I'm supposed to do it, how I'm supposed to do it is one of the greatest joys of my entire life. No longer do I have to live under the gun of the guilt, the fear, the shame of not doing what I'm supposed to. I love this way of life, and losing the weight is just a small part of it. Through the working of the steps and the spiritual awakening that came about as the result of that, I love owning up to my responsibilities. Let's continue. We're on page 141. This is not to say that all alcoholics are honest and upright when not drinking. Of course, that isn't so. And such people often may impose on you. Seeing your attempt to understand and help, some men will try to take advantage of your kindness. If you are sure your man does not want to stop, he may as well be discharged. The sooner the better. You are not doing him a favor by keeping him on. Firing such an individual may prove a blessing to him. It may be just the jolt he needs. I know in my own particular case that nothing my company could have done would have stopped me for so long as I was able to hold my position. I could not possibly realize how serious my situation was. Had they fired me first, and had they then taken steps to see that I was presented with the solution contained in this book, I might have returned to them 6 months later, a well man. Now let's talk about that for just a minute, and let's keep in mind the three concepts that I'd like to introduce to you about this chapter that I feel are so important: loss, denial, and ignorance. When I am having a sponsor, and I have a wonderful sponsor, he yells at me sometime, he whatever, he talks in his outdoor voice to me sometime, and whatever happens happens, and that's fine. But the bottom line is, if I have this paragraph and it's talking about the workplace, the company not keeping me on as an active alcoholic, can't I apply that to sponsorship? That if the person really doesn't want to get well, I shouldn't keep them on? And so many times I will get this call. So many times at meetings, you'll get people that are asking the question, what should I do about this person? They've picked up a bunch of times. I don't want to let them go. Well, one of the questions I have for them is, why don't you want to let them go? They're not recovering under your sponsorship. You're not doing them any favors. So we have some denial here that this is working. We have some ignorance here of the disease. And one of the things that Parkhurst puts in this paragraph is, he says, firing such an individual may prove a blessing to him. It may be just the jolt he needs. So if we look at this paragraph, not from the standpoint of an employer, not from the standpoint of a large company, but look at it from the standpoint of sponsorship. Isn't firing someone who is not abstinent over and over and over again, isn't firing someone who is not doing what you're asking them to do a blessing in disguise? Why should we co-sign their disease? Why should we keep them on when they need to be discharged? It may be just the jolt that they need. And we talk about loss. We talk about lost time. One of the things I feel we can do for people who are not, I'm not talking about that I'm a saint, I walked in, I got abstinent. No, I've told you many times here in this forum, I have 46 years in the rooms and 26 years of abstinence, and I had like a 7 or 8 year period before the relapse and so on. So I've had abstinence, but I needed to be jolted back into recovery. And sometimes keeping someone on who is not doing what you're asking them to do is really not doing them any favors, and it isn't doing us any favors as sponsors either, because we can only take so much time, and we are better off using that time for somebody who wants to recover. So just in summation here, this paragraph is really about sponsorship if you use it correctly, if you use it, in a way that's going to be very, very productive. You don't want to use it in terms of a big company, that's fine. Use it in terms of sponsorship. Firing someone may be just the jolt that they need. Page 141. But there are many men who want to stop, and with them you can go far. And that's something that we find too. Your understanding treatment of their cases will pay dividends. In other words, go to the people that really are doing what you ask them to do. You know, we say the only requirement for membership in Overeaters Anonymous is a desire to stop eating compulsively. How do you demonstrate your desire not to eat compulsively? By doing the work. If you're not doing the work, you're not doing what it takes to be free of this disease. You're not doing not free, but in recovery. You're not doing the work. If you don't do the work, you know, Kim G out in New Jersey, she has a great expression. She says to people, I'm very sorry you did not get any results from the work you did not do. I'm very sorry you did not get the results from the work you did not do is brilliant, because there are people running around saying, well, these promises are not coming true for me, or this thing is not coming true for me. Well, did you do the work? You don't do the work, you don't get the result. It's just that simple. Perhaps I'm on page 141. Perhaps you have such a man in mind. He wants to quit drinking and you want to help him, even if it be only a matter of good business. You now know more about alcoholism. You can see that he is mentally and physically sick. You are willing to overlook his past performances. Suppose an approach is made something like this. Let's take a look at this. State that you know about his drinking and that it must stop. You might say, if you appreciate his abilities, would like to keep him, but cannot if he continues to drink. A firm attitude at this point has helped many of us. So let's apply that again to sponsorship. And let's apply it again to the three concepts that we kind of bring into this chapter to see the loss, the denial, and the ignorance. One of the things that I've suffered from, and probably you have too, is the time in your life spent in the disease. It's very difficult at times for me to cope with, for me to deal with the time that I spent in the disease. I missed out on so much. I missed out on relationships. I missed out on passion. I missed out on romance. I missed out on career opportunities. I missed out on so much. And so for me, it is very difficult at times to deal with the loss. Now, the denial in that period of time is that somehow, some way, somebody was going to come down from heaven or something and strike me, and all of a sudden I'd be thin. That doesn't happen. That is not one of the choices. That didn't happen. And the ignorance played out because I didn't understand really that I was going to have to do the work that everyone did. I lost out. I had denial. I had ignorance. This is not a disease that is going to go away on its own because I want it to or I need it to. Let's face an undeniable fact. The disease does not stay the same over time. The disease does not get better over time. The disease continues to get worse and worse and worse and worse. There are three things happening during any minute in time. Number one, I'm getting older. Number two, things are changing. And number three, my disease is getting worse. So with respect to that, I need to keep working my program harder and harder and harder. I cannot rest on my laurels, as it says on page 85. I cannot do the same amount of work and expect to have the same kind of recovery. I have to keep doing more and more and more. Now, the other thing that is very important for me to remember is, as I age, not only do I have to do more, but I'm required to eat less. And that may be a little frightening for some people to hear. I'm 70 years old. I'm going to be 71, God willing, at the end of May. What I've learned is if I went back to eating the way I did at 68 years of age, which is when I got my last food plan, if I went back to eating the way I did when I was 65 years of age, which is when I got the food plan before that, I would gain weight in leaps and bounds. If I went back to doing the level of service that I was doing 10 years ago, 20 years ago, I would probably be in trouble. I continue to do more and different. More and different. I don't necessarily go to different meetings. I kind of settle in to Vision in Scottsdale, and I do the family afterwards as well. But the bottom line is I have to keep doing more while I'm eating less. But doing more facilitates eating less because I don't obsess about food. I don't feel like, oh my God, if I don't eat that, I'm going to die. I feel quite the opposite. If I do eat that, I'm going to be in a situation that is not only death, but worse than death, worse than death. So it's a matter of understanding that things are changing. I'm getting older and my disease is getting worse. Let's go to page 142, top paragraph. Next, he can be assured that you do not intend to lecture, moralize, or condemn. That if this was done formerly, it was because of misunderstanding. If possible, express a lack of hard feeling toward him. At this point, it may be well to explain alcoholism, the illness. Say that you believe he is gravely ill. He is a gravely ill person. With this qualification, being perhaps fatally ill, does he want to get well, you ask? Because many alcoholics, being warped and drugged, do not want to quit. But does he? Will he take every necessary step, submit to anything to get well, to stop drinking forever? Once again, guys, this paragraph is more about sponsorship, more about life in this program than it is about big business. Most of us will never work in the kind of company that Hank Parkhurst is describing here. Most of us are going to work for medium, small businesses. If we do work for large businesses, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But most of us will not be in charge of hundreds and hundreds of people during our life. And if you are, and that's your path, that's great. But let's take a look at this paragraph and let's relate it to sponsorship. And let's understand something. There are people in these rooms, there are people not in these rooms that have absolutely no intention of ever changing anything. They are not going to get well. They will attend meetings, they will attend conventions, they will attend retreats, but they never take the program home with them. And they are people that are sitting in the rooms dying of their untreated addiction. They just they're not going to put down the food. I have gone to retreats. I have gone to conventions where people are gorging themselves on food. I mean, just absolutely gorging themselves on food that would never enter my mouth in recovery. It is not up to me to say anything to them unless I have a situation where they ask me or some kind of opening that God may create for me. I don't walk up to people and say, I notice you're eating waffles with syrup and butter. Do you think you want to rethink that or something? No, I don't do that. I don't do that to people. So the bottom line is that I have a situation where I've seen much of this. At some point, we have to ask ourselves this first. And the question we have to ask ourselves is, do I want to recover? And if I do want to recover, am I willing to do the work I see others doing? On page 58 of the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, it very simply says this: if you want what we have, and you're willing to go to any length to get it, then you're ready to take certain steps. Now, let's take a look at that statement before we move on in this chapter. If you want what we have, what is it we seem to have? And the answer always comes back, and this is the answer I gave too. The answer always comes back, well, you guys are not eating compulsively. Well, let me tell you something. There are people at McDonald's right now, there are people at Dunkin' Donuts right now that are not eating compulsively. They've split one donut and they're each going to have a cup of coffee. Neither is going to finish their half of the donut, and they're fine. If you want what we have, here's what we have, I hope. What we have are tens of thousands of compulsive overeaters who are not eating compulsively, and they are happy and joyous and free in their release from the desire to do so. They are happy, joyous, and free in their release from wanting to do so. Very, very important that we're not just not compulsively overeating. We've all been on diets before. We've dieted down before. This is a little different. This is not a diet. I am free so long as I'm in fit spiritual condition. So what we have here is a freedom from the desire to compulsively overeat and kill ourselves with food. We also have a way of life that works in rough going. We have a spiritual toolkit laid at our feet that will bring us through anything we face. And no matter how evolved my recovery gets, I will never rise above the level of a human being. My friend went to sleep 4 Fridays ago, and he never woke up. I'm dealing with a breakup. I'm dealing with the loss of a friend. I'm dealing with everything that people deal with on an everyday basis, and I'm not finding it necessary to compulsively overeat. Is that because I'm so wonderful? Hardly. Is that because I'm so strong in my willpower? Hardly. It's because of a God that is much more powerful than I. And it says, that one is God. May you find him now. And the work of this program has put me in touch with the one power, the power of God, that is greater than the power of my disease. On page 45 of the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous, it simply has the thesis line of the Big Book. It simply says, the main object of this book is to help you find a power greater than yourself, which will solve your problem. And if it's the main object of this book, then it better be the main object of my life. We are not a diet and calories club. We are not going to, if you came here today and you're hoping I will teach you something that will help you stay on your diet, you're sorely, sorely wasting your time. I do not have diet tips. I don't. I wish I had when I was 6 or 5 when I went on my first diet. I don't. What we have here are steps which will put your hand in the hand of God. And when your hand is in the hand of God, through the work that you do, the desire to eat will not be there. I promise you. We've ceased fighting anything or anyone, even food, for by this time, sanity will have returned. Let's continue on page 142. If he says yes, does he really mean it? Or down inside, does he think he is fooling you that after rest and treatment, he will be able to get away with a few drinks? And now and then, we believe a man should be thoroughly probed on these points. Be satisfied he is not deceiving himself or you. I think that what happens is, as addicts, we become good liars. And as liars, we learn to give people the answer that they want. And people would say to me for a long time, why do you want to be so fat? And I'd say, I don't want to be so fat. And that seemed to make them even more mad. So you kind of learn to play their game to get them away from you so that they won't bother you. Well, when people would say to me, don't you want to lose weight? I would always say, oh, yes, absolutely I do. When deep inside, I didn't care All I wanted to do, honestly, was to be left alone so that I could die with a belly full of Doritos and a belly full of Oreo cookies and Chips Ahoy cookies and Butterfinger bars. And when I go, I just want to go painlessly with a full stomach because I saw no point to life. I saw no point to the world. I saw no point to this. I knew that love and passion and success were not for me. I was a fat boy. How was I ever going to achieve any modicum of success? I just simply didn't think I could. Now, I'm not a millionaire. I still have to work, but I have a good life. I have a life that includes people and program and friends. I have a purpose to my life. I have a good life. So let's continue on page 142. Whether you mention this book is a matter for your discretion. If he temporizes and still thinks he can ever drink again, even beer, he might as well be discharged after the next bender, which, if an alcoholic, he is almost certain to have. He should understand that emphatically. Either you are dealing with a man who can and will get well, or you are not. If not, why waste time with him? Sponsorship is the key here. Don't apply it to big business. To employers might as well be titled to sponsors. This paragraph, this chapter is one of the greatest aids to my sponsoring around. It just shows you in absolute terms that if a person is not willing to do what it is that they're supposed to do, that you are better off leaving them alone. The Yiddish word of the day is lazem gain. What does lazem gain mean? Leave them alone. Stop trying to convince them. The only convincer is pain. The only teacher is experience. Pain isn't the best motivator. It's the only motivator. Experience isn't the best teacher. It's the only teacher. Let's continue. Bottom of 142. After satisfying yourself that your man wants to recover and that he will go to any extreme to do so, you may suggest a definite course of action. For most alcoholics who are drinking or who are just getting over a spree, top of 143, a certain amount of physical treatment is desirable, even imperative. The matter of physical treatment should, of course, be referred to your own doctor. Whatever the method, its object is to thoroughly clear mind and body of the effects of alcohol. In competent hands, this seldom takes long, nor is it very expensive. Your man will fare better if placed in such physical condition that he can think straight and no longer craves liquor. If you propose such a procedure to him, it may be necessary to advance the cost of treatment, but we believe it should be made plain that any expense will later be deducted from his pay. It is better for him to feel fully responsible. It is imperative that we take this into our lives as sponsors and we look at this situation objectively. We cannot worry about, does the person like me? Does the person think I'm great? That's not what we're here for. And too many sponsors are worried about, what is he going to think of me? What is she going to think of me? Are they going to like me? No, that's not what this is about. This is about helping another person. And if under my sponsorship they are not getting well, it is imperative that I let them go so that they can find the voice that they will listen to. It is not about me hanging on to someone for my own ego-driven madness that I'm their buddy, I'm their friend, and I'm going to stick with them. Sometimes that is a death sentence. I'm tired of getting these calls and questions that these people have not been abstinent for years. And I tell them they need a sponsor and they say they have one. And I say, how long have you been with this sponsor? And they say, oh, 5 years, 6 years. Have you had any abstinence in that time? No, I haven't. Well, a few days here and a few days there. You know, you got to ask yourself, if it doesn't work, you got to change something. If you want different, you got to do different. So you see that this chapter is about loss, denial, and ignorance. Loss, denial, and ignorance. But it's more about sponsorship than it is about big business. 143, middle of the page. If your man accepts your offer, it should be pointed out that physical treatment is but a small part of the picture. Though you are not providing him with the best possible medical attention, he should understand that he must undergo a change of heart. To get over drinking will require a transformation of thought and attitude. We all had to place recovery above everything, for without recovery, we would have lost both home and business. Now, you've heard me say this many times. We do not live to recover, we recover to live. God wants you to be happy, joyous, and free. He wants you to have a good life. He wants you to have a life that includes friends, romance, passion, marriage, whatever that may be for you. We all have an instinct to pair bond. We all have a social instinct. We need to recreate. We need to do things that are fun. But for me, recovery comes before everything. I can still recreate. I can still do things. I can still go with my friends. I can still date. I can still, if I remember how, I can still date. I can still do things. I just have to keep recovery first. Just because I'm on a date with a woman doesn't mean I have to go eat donuts. Just because I'm on a date with a woman doesn't mean I have to eat food that's not abstinent for me. It's not about the eating. So I don't have to think for 1 second that I can't have it all. I can. I can have a life and I can have my recovery, and my recovery must come first. If I put anything above my recovery, above God, I will lose it. If I put women above God, I will lose them. If I put money above God, I will lose it. So God / recovery has to come first, but there's a wide swath of room. There's a lot of bandwidth where I can fit in other things. 143. Can you have every confidence in his ability to recover? While on the subject of confidence, can you adopt the attitude that so far as you are concerned, this will be a strictly personal matter, that his alcoholic derelictions, the treatment about to be undertaken, will never be discussed without his consent? It may be well to have a long chat with him on his return. So we want to talk about this. It's sending people to a hospital, sending them to a treatment center, a sanitarium, that the cost of it will be deducted. That's not something you're going to face today. You're not going to face this in business. You're not going to face this in your sponsorship. As a sponsor, you are not responsible for who goes to treatment and who doesn't. You are not their insurance company. You are not, obligated to pay for their hospitalization. This is nothing you're going to deal with in 2025. It just is not. Bottom of 143. To return to the subject matter of this book, it contains full suggestions by which the employee must solve his problem. Now, the employee cannot solve their problem. That is quite impossible. What the employee can do is enlist the power of God. How does the employee enlist the power of God? By working the steps. Stopping the food, cutting off the excess food, the red light foods, the foods with the ingredients that are going to kill them, and going into a situation where they are putting their hand in God's and doing what is expected of them. Very, very important. Okay. To use some of the ideas which it contains are novel. Perhaps you are not quite in sympathy with the approach we suggest. By no means do we offer it as the last word on the subject, but so far as we are concerned, it has worked with us. After all, are you not looking for results rather than methods? Whether your employee likes it or not, he will learn the grim truth about alcoholism. That won't hurt him a bit, even though he does not go for this remedy. Now, What we need to remember is simply this. If you're not going to work the steps, you're probably not going to recover. I just have not seen people recover that didn't do the work. I just haven't seen that. I just haven't seen that. But if somebody says, hey, I've got another way of doing it, I'm all ears. Let's continue, page 144. We suggest you draw the book to the attention of the doctor who is to attend your patient during treatment. If the book is read the moment the patient is able, while acutely depressed, realization of his condition may come to him. So by reading the book, it makes you aware of those things. And what does it do? It breaks down one of the things that we talk about, loss, denial, and ignorance. Reading the book and living the instructions of the book emancipates you from ignorance. Now you have an awareness of what's going on. You have an awareness of what this disease is and what it is not. It is losing weight does not treat the disease. Abstinence does not treat the disease. You have to do the steps. We have an illness that only a spiritual awakening will conquer. Page 144, middle of the page. We hope the doctor will tell the patient the truth about his condition, whatever that happens to be. When the man is presented with this volume, it is best that no one tell him he must abide by its suggestions. The man must decide for himself. A man whose mind is changed against his will is of the same opinion still. When I wanted to recover, I recovered. When I wanted to give up the food because I could no longer live with it, I got abstinent and I recovered. When someone else was telling me I have to give up the food, and I was lying through my teeth to those people, and I was telling them how much I want to recover, and how, yes, I'm gonna give up the triple cheeseburgers, and I'm gonna give up the extra large family size pizzas, and I'm gonna give up this food and that food. I knew I was lying. I was just trying to get them off my back. I was just trying to get them to leave me the heck alone. But when I decided these things, that the results were definitely there with no problem. You are betting, of course, that your changed attitude plus the contents of this book will turn the trick. In some cases it will, and in others it may not. But we think that if you persevere, the percentage of successes will gratify you. As our work spreads and our numbers increase, we hope your employee may be put in personal contact with some of us. Meanwhile, we are sure a great deal can be accomplished by the use of the book alone. The book can break down that ignorance for you, particularly the first few chapters, the doctor's opinion, Bill's story, there is a solution, more about alcoholism. These are key. These are all chapters on step number 1. And it's very, very important that you get a picture of that before you move forward, obviously. Bottom of 144. On your employee's return from the treatment center, they're talking, talk with him. Ask him if he thinks he has the answer. If he feels free to discuss his problems with you, if he knows you understand and will not be upset by anything he wishes to say, he will probably be off to a fast start. In this connection, can you remain undisturbed if the man proceeds to tell you shocking things? He may, for example, reveal that he has padded his expense account or that he has planned to take your best customers away from you. In fact, he may say almost anything if he has accepted our solution, which, as you know, demands rigorous honesty. Can you charge this off as you would a bad account and start fresh with him? If he owes you money, you may wish to make terms. In other words, just because someone plotted against you or whatever it is, you're going to have to be the bigger person. If they owe you money, you'll have to make terms. You're going to have to be the bigger person because you're the one in recovery and they are not. So you're going to have to call upon yourself to put resentments and put anger and put all this stuff aside using the steps you have. Page 145. If he speaks of his home situation, you can undoubtedly make helpful suggestions. Can he talk frankly with you so long as he does not bear business tales or criticize his associates? With this kind of employee, such an attitude will command undying loyalty. Well, this is more, again, about sponsorship. When you guys are on that plane of communication that is extremely intimate, and you're telling each other everything, there is a bond that does develop. There is definitely a bond. The greatest enemies of us alcoholics are resentment, jealousy, envy, frustration, and fear. What do you think is going on here? Yes, it's a repetition of everything we've learned. Resentment, jealousy is fear and resentment kind of coming together. Envy and jealousy are the same kind of thing. So if in questions and answers you want to ask me what's the difference between envy and jealousy, I'll tell you what, I really don't know. I just think it's a different word for the same thing. I'm jealous of you because you are a millionaire and you inherited your money. You didn't have to really work for it. I'm here slaving away and you were handed a big inheritance, something like that. Envy, same thing. Frustration with the world as it is. I get frustrated. Why couldn't I be the king of England? Or why couldn't I be the first baseman for the Cubs, or the left fielder for the Cubs, or the quarterback for the Bears? And why couldn't I? Well, I didn't work to be those things. I didn't do the work. I didn't work out. I didn't exercise. I didn't give it my all. I didn't do what I needed to do. Now I'm 70 years old. It's probably not going to happen. I think that ship has definitely sailed. So the bottom line, and fear, of course, fear. So the bottom line here is we're looking at these enemies of alcoholics. And what are we called upon to do? We're called upon to work the steps. Because I cannot rid myself of resentment, jealousy, envy, frustration, and fear any more than I could rid myself of compulsive overeating. I can't rid myself of these things, but God can. And I have a proven, workable method. And if I follow that method, I will be as free from those things as is humanly possible. Do I still get angry? Yes. Do I still get jealous? Yes. Do I still get frustrated? Yes. Do I still get scared? Yes. No matter how evolved, excuse me, no matter how evolved my recovery gets, I will never rise above the level of a human being. And so these things become a lot more about sponsorship to us than they do about big business. Wherever men are gathered today in business, there will be rivalries, and arising out of these, a certain amount of office politics. Sometimes we alcoholics have an idea that people are trying to pull us down. Often this is not so at all, but sometimes our drinking will be used politically. That's more big business than it is recovery. We're not trying to pull anybody down. We're not trying to get one over on anybody. That's more big business. So if you have that in your business where people are competing for things, positions, customers, things like that, you'll deal with that in your step 10s. But for the purpose of sponsorship, we really don't have anything like that because we're not competing against each other in any way, shape, or form. Bottom of 145. One instance comes to mind in which a malicious individual was always making friendly little jokes about an alcoholic's drinking exploits. In this way, he was slyly carrying tales. In another case, an alcoholic was sent to a hospital for treatment. Only a few knew of it at first, but within a short time it was billboarded throughout the entire company. Naturally, this sort of thing decreased the man's chance of recovery. Top of 146, the employer can many times protect the victim from this kind of talk. The employer cannot play favorites, but he can always defend a man from needless provocation and unfair criticism. Again, chances are very good that you're not going to deal much with that in the workplace. If you do, you have steps to help you. If you don't, look at it from the standpoint of sponsorship. We do not want to be unfairly critical of anyone. And one of the things I see about sponsors today is they're not encouragers. They criticize more than they encourage. This is a very hard disease. It's a hard disease on a lot of levels. But one of the things about compulsive overeating that I think is very true is it is a disease of perfectionism and self-loathing. And when you're dealing with someone who is a perfectionist and someone who hates themselves, criticizing them unduly and in amounts that are just over the top can be counterproductive. Every once in a while, I've learned in life to be an encourager. Hey, I really like the way you called me on time. Hey, I really like seeing you at meetings. Hey, I really like the way you dealt with this, this, and this. Hey, I really like the way you got through this, this, and this and didn't compulsively overeat. Every once in a while, like every day, I try to point things out that people are doing right because I'm so practiced at pointing out what they're doing wrong, and I need to point out what they're doing right. It's very, very important. Okay. He will appreciate knowing you're not. Where am I? Oh, the employer. Right. Okay. As a class, alcoholics are energetic people. They work hard and they play hard. Your man should be on his mettle to make good. Being somewhat weakened and faced with physical and mental readjustment to a life which knows no alcohol, he may overdo. You may have to curb his desire to work 16 hours a day. Let me tell you, I'm in recovery. I've never had the urge to work 16 hours a day. Never in my entire life. I am very, very lazy and I don't want to have to work. I'm 70 years old. I would love to just be able to watch television all day and, just recreate and have the money coming in. That would be my dream, is to have that. I don't have it. I do have to work, and it makes me mad sometimes. But I don't have a desire to work 16 hours a day. Let me just tell you that. If you do, God bless you. You may need to encourage him to play once in a while, and I need to be encouraged to play. He may wish to do a lot for other alcoholics, and something of the sort may come up during business hours. A reasonable amount of latitude will be helpful. This work is necessary to maintain his sobriety. More and more workplaces today, Google and Microsoft and Apple and this, they are providing recreation for the employers, gymnasiums and workout equipment and just different things like that, because we find that when people do that, when they play and they have that well-rounded life, they become infinitely more productive than if they just work all the time. That is not a very productive way to live for most people. 146. After your man has gone along without drinking for a few months, you may be able to make use of his services with other employees who are giving you the alcoholic runaround, provided, of course, they are willing to have a third party in the picture. An alcoholic who has recovered but holds a relatively unimportant job can talk to a man with a better position. Being on a radically different basis of life, he will never take advantage of the situation. And I'm reminded that in big business, sometimes it would not be politically correct for the vice president of sales to be getting advice from the janitor or getting advice from one of the cooks in the cafeteria. That probably wouldn't go well politically, but that is exactly the case sometimes. So what does that tell me about sponsorship? I keep telling you, I'm going to unspotlight myself here for just a minute. What does that keep telling you about the sponsorship? Don't worry about what your station in life is. Don't worry about that. Let's just get the help we need, and let's not worry about where the help is coming from. Whether you're from Yale or jail, whether you're from Park Avenue or you live under a park bench, whether you are whatever or you're whatever. You're a doctor, you're a janitor, you're a construction worker, you're God knows what. It doesn't matter. That's one of the reasons that we are anonymous. That's one of the reasons we don't sit and discuss things like, how much money do you have and what do you drive? And now in the live meetings, in the face-to-face meetings years ago, we would get a picture of who you were, what your station in life was, because the neighborhood that the meeting was in was pretty indicative of where you were, but we could see your clothing, we could see your car, we could see your whatever. So we had a better idea of who was this and who was that. It doesn't really matter. All we're seeing now on Zoom is a face. We're seeing a face. So the bottom line is it doesn't matter where the help comes from as long as the help is there. We don't care. Your man may be trusted. Long experience with alcoholic excuses naturally arouses suspicion. When his wife next calls saying he is sick, you might jump to the conclusion he is drunk. If he is and is still trying to recover, he will tell you about it, even if it means the loss of his job. For he knows he must be honest if he would live at all. He will appreciate knowing you are not bothering your head about him, that you are not suspicious, nor are you trying to run his life so that he will be shielded from temptation to drink. If he is conscientiously following the program of recovery, he can go anywhere your business may call him. In case he does stumble, even once, you will have to decide whether to let him go. Apply that to your sponsorship as well. If you are sure he doesn't mean business, there's no doubt that you should discharge him. If, on the contrary, you are sure he is doing his utmost, you may wish to give him another chance, but you should feel under no obligation to keep him on, for your obligation has been well discharged. So, there's another thing. This will probably be the last paragraph we do. There's another thing you might wish to do. If your organization is a large one, your junior executives might be provided with this book. You may let them know you have no quarrel with the alcoholics of your organization. These juniors are often in a difficult position. Men under them are frequently their friends. So for one reason or another, they cover these men, hoping matters will take a turn for the better. They often jeopardize their own positions by trying to help serious drinkers who should have been fired long ago, or else given the opportunity to get well. Now, in business today, alcoholics who are in recovery are a protected class. Alcoholics who are still drinking are not. Drug addicts who are in recovery are a protected class. If they are not in recovery and they are still drugging, they are not a protected class. That is not for us in Overeaters Anonymous. I'm just telling you as general information. How do we apply that to sponsorship? Well, we're not going to be that personal with people in the workplace or even as a sponsor. But what you may wish to do is, if the person, again, is serious, and you know they're serious, and they had a slip, which I think is the same as relapse, but that's for another time, then you can hang with them. But if you're absolutely seeing over and over again this lackadaisical attitude leading to the food, for God's sakes, lozum gain. That's the Yiddish word of the day, lozum gain. What does that mean? Leave them alone. Somebody else will pick them up. Somebody else will sponsor them. And perhaps it's their voice, their approach, their method that will get through to the person. You see, we're bottles of ketchup. We really are. A bottle of ketchup was very hard to open. So you pound it and pound it, you don't get it. So you hand it to someone else. Hey, can you open this ketchup? I can't open it either. You run it under hot water. You're pounding the bottle. Then all of a sudden some kid comes along and you hand him the bottle of ketchup and he pops that top off like there's no tomorrow. That is exactly what happens with this recovery business. All of a sudden, they're hearing my voice and they're not recovering. Then they're hearing someone else's voice, they're not recovering. And then someone who maybe they've sponsored no one else in their life, they get a hold of this person and the person just blossoms into beautiful, wonderful recovery. And the bottom line is it's going to be more up to God than it is up to us. But for the love of God, we need to stop trying to sponsor people over and over again that are not in recovery after reading this book. Okay, now, before we go, let me just write this down here. After reading, okay, we're going to go into Q&A here. And before we do,